When I look back on that evening, the memory still rests in my chest like a stone, heavy, cold, and impossible to move. I had just returned home from the hospital a few hours earlier. My arm was trapped in a stiff, uncomfortable cast, and every small movement sent a burning ache through my bones. All I wanted was silence, rest, peace. But my daughter, Melissa, insisted I attend the family dinner she had been planning for weeks. "Mom, please," she said over the phone, her voice unusually firm. "It's important. Don't skip it. We all need to talk." I hesitated. I didn't have the strength for conversations, for questions, for explanations I wasn't ready to give. But I didn't want to worry her, and I knew this lie I'd been holding on to wouldn't survive much longer. Because the truth was simple but terrifying. My injury wasn't from a fall. It wasn't an accident. And it wasn't something I could explain without tearing open months, maybe years of hidden pain. When I stepped into Melissa's dining room that evening, everything fell silent. Forks hung mid-air, chairs paused halfway pulled out, eyes widened, gasping breaths filled the space between us. My son-in-law, Daniel, looked at me with an expression I couldn't read: anger, concern, hurt. Melissa shot up from her chair instantly. "Mom, you're pale. Sit, please, sit." She pulled out a seat at the head of the table as if she knew I needed support but wasn't sure how to give it. I lowered myself slowly, my cast feeling heavier under the weight of their worried eyes. The room smelled of roasted chicken and herbs, warm and inviting, but all I felt was the tension tightening like a rope around my chest. Then Melissa folded her arms. It was a stance I recognized from her childhood, firm, determined, unmovable. "Mom," she said quietly, "you're going to tell us exactly what happened." I forced a smile, weak and shaky. "Honey, I told you, I slipped." "No." Daniel's voice cut through my lie like a blade. "That arm wasn't broken by a fall." My heart dropped. Daniel had never spoken to me with such certainty. He was calm by nature, always gentle. Seeing him this direct scared me. Melissa leaned forward. "Mom, please, no more lies." I felt tears sting behind my eyes. The lie was crumbling fast. I opened my mouth to confess, but then the doorbell rang. The entire room froze. Melissa and Daniel exchanged a long, silent look. Something was happening, something they weren't telling me. "I'll get it," Daniel said, standing up. His footsteps faded into the hallway. Then, voices, muffled, low, a man's voice. Familiar, too familiar. A chill ran up my spine. Melissa placed her hand over mine. "Mom, we invited someone." I didn't even have time to react before Daniel walked back into the room with my husband, Eric, right behind him. My breath lodged in my throat. My heartbeat roared in my ears. Eric stepped inside with a smug expression, like he walked into a room he owned. "You haven't told them the truth, have you?" he said with false innocence. I flinched, not from the words, but from the memory of his hands shoving me during the argument, the sickening crack when my arm hit the staircase. Maybe he hadn't meant to break it, but he had never cared enough to stop. Daniel stepped forward, positioning himself between us. "Sit down," he said. It wasn't a request. Eric stared at him, but something about Daniel's posture, steady, strong, unwavering, made him obey. Melissa wiped her eyes. "Mom, we know everything." My voice trembled. "How?" Daniel clenched his jaw. "Because I taught him a lesson." I stared at him, confusion mixing with dread. "What do you mean?" Daniel exhaled slowly, the memory clearly weighing on him. "Yesterday," he began, "after you left the hospital, I saw him following your car. I don't think he noticed me behind him. I watched him go inside with you. I stayed in my car for a minute, but then I heard yelling." His voice thickened. "I got out. I saw him throw something. I saw you shrink into the corner. And when he grabbed your arm again, I stepped in." Pieces of memory slid into place like a puzzle I had been too afraid to finish. I remembered Eric suddenly jerking away. I remembered falling back on the sofa. But I hadn't seen Daniel. I hadn't known he was the reason Eric stopped. Eric scoffed. "You think you scared me? I could have—" "Shut up," Melissa snapped, slamming her palm on the table. The crack of her voice was enough to silence everyone. She turned back to me. "Mom, every time I asked you if you were okay, you lied, for years." A tear slid down my face. "I didn't want you to worry." Melissa squeezed my fingers gently. "Mom, in this family, you don't have to hide your pain. Not anymore." Eric rolled his eyes. "This is ridiculous. She needs me. She can't live alone. Daniel stood up so suddenly, his chair scraped across the floor. "She's staying with us," he said calmly. Eric opened his mouth to protest, but Daniel stepped closer. "That was your last time hurting her." He paused, his voice dropping lower. "And I made sure you understood that." Suddenly, I remembered. Daniel's voice booming in my house. Eric stumbling back. The slam of the door. The threat that made Eric leave like a coward. Melissa took a deep breath. "Mom, we already spoke to a lawyer. Tonight, you're filing for separation." My heart pounded. "Tonight?" "Yes," Daniel said softly, "because if you don't, he'll do worse next time." I finally turned to Eric. Really turned. There was no love left, no warmth, only fear and exhaustion. Years of bruises hidden under sweaters. Years of excuses. Years of silence. Something inside me straightened. My back, my voice, maybe even my spirit. "You're right," I whispered. "I'm done." Melissa's tears flowed freely. Daniel exhaled in relief. Eric's smirk finally faded. And me? For the first time in years, I felt safe.